Nothing was dramatically wrong. I was functioning, working, responding, meeting expectations, but everything felt slightly heavier than necessary. Simple decisions required too much thought. Minor conversations lingered in my head longer than they should. Small tasks stayed open for days. There was no crisis, just constant low-level mental friction. I noticed I was rehearsing explanations no one asked for, researching beyond the point of usefulness, keeping options open longer than necessary, reacting quickly to things that didn't require speed. Individually, none of it looked like a problem. Collectively, it was expensive, not emotionally dramatic, structurally inefficient, and inefficiency compounds. The realization wasn't that I needed more discipline. It was that I needed fewer internal negotiations. So I didn't try to change my personality. I started changing small decisions, subtle ones, almost invisible from the outside, but they altered how my mind processes situations. Here are 20 of them. 1. I stopped explaining myself unnecessarily. I used to preemptively justify decisions, even small ones. Why I chose something, why I declined something, why I needed time. No one explicitly asked, but I felt compelled to provide context. It looked like clarity. It was insecurity disguised as transparency. Over-explaining creates the illusion that approval is required. And once you start seeking silent approval, your thinking shifts outward. You stop asking, does this make sense to me? You start asking, will this make sense to them? That shift is expensive. So I reduced explanations to what was necessary. If a boundary is reasonable, it doesn't require a thesis. If a decision is intentional, it doesn't require a defense. Silence removed mental rehearsal. And mental rehearsal was draining more energy than the decisions themselves. 2. I started making decisions faster. I believe slow decisions were intelligent decisions. Careful, considered, responsible. But many of my delays weren't about quality. They were about fear of discomfort, fear of closing options, fear of losing flexibility. Open options feel safe, but they keep the brain in evaluation mode. Constant evaluation is exhausting. I realize most decisions are adjustable. Very few are irreversible. So I shortened the gap between analysis and action, not impulsively, but intentionally. Deciding faster reduced cognitive clutter, and reduced clutter improved thinking. 3. I schedule thinking time. Without structure, thinking becomes background noise. You think while scrolling, while answering messages, while multitasking. It feels productive. It isn't. Scattered thinking creates scattered conclusions. So I gave thinking its own container. No input, no urgency, just structured reflection. When thought is uninterrupted, patterns emerge. You see repetition in your concerns. You see exaggeration in your fears. Clarity doesn't require more information. It requires uninterrupted processing. 4. I close mental loops immediately. Unsent emails, unanswered questions, minor tasks postponed, individually small, collectively heavy. Every open loop occupies space in working memory. You don't notice it consciously, but you feel it as vague tension. I stopped allowing small loops to linger. If it's actionable, I act. If it needs scheduling, I schedule. If it doesn't matter, I remove it. Closure reduced background noise. And thinking improved when fewer tabs were open internally. 5. I define what enough means financially. Ambition without definition is infinite. Infinite targets create permanent insufficiency. Before defining enough, progress felt unstable. More income didn't reduce pressure. It just increased comparison. Defining a number didn't limit growth. It stabilized perception. When enough is clear, additional growth becomes strategic, not emotional. Scarcity thinking reduces when metrics are defined. Undefined goals distort judgment. Defined thresholds calm it. 6. I stopped negotiating with my future self. I use the debate commitments in real time. Morning decisions dissolved by evening mood. Every task required renegotiation. That constant internal voting system was exhausting. So I reduced flexibility where it wasn't useful. If I decide to train, I train. If I decide to publish, I publish. Mood is data, not authority. Removing negotiation reduced friction, and friction was what I was actually tired of. 7. I stopped multitasking in conversations. While listening, I was often preparing responses, or checking something briefly, or half present. It felt efficient. It wasn't. Fragmented attention weakens comprehension, and weak comprehension leads to overcorrection later. Misinterpretations, clarifications, revisions. Full presence reduced future repair. It also improved perception. You notice tone shifts, hesitations, contradictions. Attention sharpened judgment. 8. I audit my inputs weekly. Thoughts feel personal, but they are heavily influenced. News, podcasts, conversations, social feeds. If inputs are chaotic, thinking becomes reactive. I began reviewing what I was consuming, not from morality, from utility. Is this sharpening me or agitating me? Information diet affects cognitive stability. Reduction improved clarity more than addition. 9. I don't react immediately to messages. Speed feels competent, but speed can be compliance. Immediate responses train others to expect urgency and train you to operate reactively. I introduced delay, not avoidance. Delay, it created hierarchy. Some things resolved themselves. Some lost importance. Pausing reduced artificial pressure, and pressure was distorting my decisions. 10. I asked, what problem am I actually solving? I noticed I often worked hard on secondary issues, optimizing details, rearranging systems, researching alternatives. But sometimes the real issue was discomfort, avoiding one direct conversation, avoiding one clear commitment. Precision requires honesty. Asking this question exposed disguised avoidance. Accuracy simplified effort. Effort without accuracy wastes cognition. 11. I define my non-negotiables. Before defining them, everything competed with everything. Sleep competed with work. Training competed with social plans. Focus competed with distraction. When everything is flexible, everything becomes fragile. I thought flexibility meant freedom, but too much flexibility created instability. So I defined a few non-negotiables. Not many, just enough to anchor the week. When something is non-negotiable, it stops requiring daily evaluation. It's removed from debate. Decision fatigue decreased immediately because fewer things needed reapproval from my mood. Stability improved not from intensity, but from clarity. 12. I schedule boredom. Unstructured silence used to feel unproductive, so I filled it. Podcasts, music, scrolling, background noise. Constant input feels stimulating, but stimulation prevents pattern recognition. When there's no silence, you don't see recurring thoughts. You just distract from them. So I created empty space intentionally. No content, no optimization. At first, it felt uncomfortable, restless. Then patterns surfaced. Recurring concerns, repeated fears, predictable narratives. Boredom exposed repetition, and repetition revealed what actually needed attention. 13. I stopped arguing to win. Winning arguments feels efficient, but it rarely changes anything. It strengthens ego, not clarity. I noticed I often defended positions automatically, even when the discussion didn't matter long-term. Arguing to win keeps the mind in combat mode. Combat mode narrows perception. I shifted the objective from winning to understanding structure. Why does this person believe this? What assumptions are different? Curiosity replaced dominance. It reduced internal tension because I no longer needed validation through agreement. Precision became more valuable than victory. 14. I define the purpose of my day before it starts. Without direction, the day fragments. Emails dictate momentum. Notifications dictate urgency. Other people's priorities fill space. Activity increases. Progress doesn't. So I stop starting days with tasks. I start with direction. If the day goes well, what move forward? One outcome, not 20 micro-completions. Defining direction reduces reactive behavior, and reactive behavior was exhausting me more than workload. 15. I stopped confusing comfort with safety. Comfort feels good, familiar routines, predictable conversations, low-risk decisions. Safety protects values. Comfort protects familiarity. They are not the same. I used to avoid discomfort, assuming I was preserving stability. Often I was preserving stagnation. Growth often feels unsafe, but it rarely is. Distinguishing between emotional discomfort and actual risk clarified decisions. Not everything uncomfortable is dangerous, and not everything comfortable is healthy. 16. I stopped over-optimizing. I used to refine systems before proving them, adjust details before building momentum, research tools before using basic ones. It felt intelligent. It delayed exposure. Optimization before repetition is avoidance. Repetition reveals real problems, not theory. I shifted the order. Act first, refine later. Progress accelerated not because I work harder, but because I stopped polishing untested ideas. 17. I treat my energy like capital. Time is measurable. Energy is decisive. 2 hours drained is not equal to 2 hours focused. I noticed certain interactions depleted me disproportionately. Certain tasks expanded me. Previously, I tracked time. Now I track energetic cost. What requires recovery? What compounds clarity? Allocation changed. Some boundaries tightened. Some commitments reduced. Energy management improved decision quality. Because cognition depends on capacity. 18. I do hard things early. Difficult tasks postpone, grow, and perceive size. They expand mentally throughout the day, even if they take 30 minutes. Delay amplifies weight. Completion shrinks it. I began placing friction first. Before inbox, before consumption, before low-resistance tasks. The psychological relief after completion recalibrates the day. Avoidance drains quietly. Confrontation restores control. 19. I reduced unnecessary optionality. I used to keep multiple paths open, multiple ideas, multiple plans, multiple potential directions. It felt strategic. It diluted commitment. Excess options increase evaluation time. Evaluation time increases hesitation. Hesitation reduces momentum. I started narrowing, not permanently, but intentionally. Constraint sharpened focus, and sharpened focus reduced mental fragmentation. 20. I remind myself, no one is coming. This isn't pessimism. It's structural clarity. No one is coming to regulate my habits, to narrow my focus, to remove distractions, to define enough for me. Waiting externalizes responsibility. Externalization delays action. When I internalize full responsibility, not emotionally, but operationally, thinking simplified, blame reduced, comparison reduced, excuses reduced. If something isn't working, it's mine to adjust. That ownership stabilized decision-making more than motivation ever did. None of these were dramatic. None were announced. No public declaration. Just quiet operational shifts, individually small, collectively architectural. Over time, something changed. Not personality, processing speed, clarity, noise reduction, self-trust increased. Not from affirmations, from evidence. Evidence that decisions are made. Evidence that loops are closed. Evidence that direction is defined. And when evidence accumulates, thinking stabilizes. Less urgency, less overinterpretation, less internal debate. Not because life simplified, because processing did. 20 subtle decisions. No reinvention, just structural correction. And structural correction compounds. If this resonated with you, leave a like, not for the algorithm, but as a signal that this kind of thinking matters. If you want more conversations like this, subscribe. No noise, no motivation theater, just structural clarity. I'll see you in the next one.